Hey everyone, for today's video I decided to do something a bit different and show you 5 different techniques for doing fluid nail art with the Sinful Colors Hypnotic Transforming Top Coats. For all of these methods you'll need a special effect polish like the Hypnotic Topcoats or Dance Legends Spot It polishes, but if you'd like to see how to do fluid art nails without special polishes, I'll leave a link in the description to a video where I use acrylic paints to create a similar effect. So the first thing I did for all of these techniques was to prep my nails by applying a base coat to all of them. I also applied a latex barrier around all of my nails to help make cleanup a lot easier. The first fluid art method is similar to watermarbling. I filled a cup with room temperature water and added drops of rainbow polishes to the surface, ending with the special effect polish. Once in the water, the special effect polish began to break apart, much like polish does after being sprayed with hairspray when doing water-spotted nails. I then continued adding another round of polish drops, and you can see that when the special effect polish was added this time, it started breaking apart over all the other colors, developing a series of small cells around the edges of this ring. I added another set of polish drops to the middle of the cup to help push the purple out more and force greater cell formation. Since the cells are on the top of the design, I had to create a decal by allowing the polish to dry in the cup. I allowed the decal to dry overnight and then used tweezers to carefully remove it from the cup. I then trimmed it a bit to better fit my nail. Once the decal was ready, I applied one of the other polishes I had used to my pinky nail and placed the decal on top of the wet polish. Using a cotton swab dipped in acetone, I dissolved the excess polish and smoothed down the edges of the decal. The latex around my nail helped to keep the decal in place during this process and kept the acetone off my skin. Once I was done, I simply removed the latex barrier and waited for my nail to dry before adding a top coat. I really liked the design that this technique created as there were lots of little multicolored cells. On the downside, the decal did take a long time to dry and was rather fragile, so it does take some extra work. For this next method, you won't need any additional materials as the design is done straight on the nail. I started by applying one of the non-special effect polishes to my ring fingernail. While the polish was still wet, I added swipes of the rest of the polishes, making sure they overlapped in spots, before adding a thin coat of the special top coat over all the other polishes. The special top coat started to break apart, forming tiny cells, and I quickly removed the latex barrier around my nail. This method is very quick, but it can be difficult to do without accidentally scraping some of the polish off the nail. When I use this technique for a Halloween tutorial, I also found that it works better with thinner polishes, so different polish formulas might give different results. For this next technique, you'll need a silicone mat and a stamper. I started by adding drops of the polishes to a spot on my silicone mat, overlapping them to create a pool of polish. Once the pool had some depth, I added the special effect polish and a few more drops of the other polishes on top. I then took my stamper and gently pressed it into the pool, stopping before the stamper actually made contact with the mat. This caused the polishes to start spreading out, forming cells as the purple interacted with the rest of the colors. After the decal had dried for around 2 hours, I gently peeled it off the mat. I applied a coat of top coat to my middle nail and pressed the decal into the wet polish. As with the first decal, I dissolved the excess polish with acetone before removing the latex barrier. This technique resulted in a variety of cell sizes, but for the most part the cells contained only 1 or 2 colors, so you may need to add more drops of polish to the pool to get better results. This next method is adapted from a technique by Man O Manicure on Instagram. Again, I started by pooling several drops of all the polishes on my silicone mat, adding the special effect polish last. I then placed the plastic scraper from my stamping kit on the surface of the pool and began dragging it over the polish, redistributing the colors and allowing them to interact and form cells. It's important not to actually touch the mat or you'll just scrape up all the polish instead. After letting it dry for a few hours, I peeled the decal off my mat and trimmed it down a bit before applying top coat to my index nail and placing the decal on top. I used acetone to remove the excess polish from the sides of my nails before removing the latex barrier. This method was actually one of my favorites as it produced a lot of large varied cells, but the colors did mix together and looked a bit muddy, so I'd recommend moving the polishes around as little as possible. It's also one of the easiest techniques, and you could use a plastic card, palette knife, or even a wooden craft stick if you don't have a scraper. The last method is inspired by a marbling technique I saw Lacvid do a while back. I started by applying a layer of my special effect polish to my silicone mat. I then added several swipes of the other colors, overlapping them to create a pool of polish. I continued adding to the pool until it had some depth. I then dipped my thumb straight into the pool, being careful not to let my nail actually touch the mat. I changed the angle of my nail and re-dipped it several times to ensure that all the edges were covered before removing it from the pool and quickly peeling off the latex. This is certainly one of the easiest of the 5 techniques, and you really don't need any special tools for it, because you could always just use a plastic bag, paper plate, or any other disposable surface in place of a silicone mat. Once I had finished all of the designs on my nails and allowed them to completely dry, I applied a layer of top coat over each. Which of these techniques was your favorite? I personally really loved how the water marbled and swiped nails turned out. If you try any of these methods, be sure to let me know how they worked for you, and leave a comment letting me know if you'd like to see more fluid art designs in the future.